Hello, hello. This is Christina, your host today. And today is a new episode of KSM Podcast, Growing Business Online with Christina. But today I'm so excited to have my amazing guest speaker, far away from US, Dr. Ivan Misner, founder of BNI, Business and Network International. Mr. Misner, welcome to the new episode of KSM Podcast.
Thank you, Christina. It's a real pleasure to be on. I appreciate you inviting me.
I'm so excited to have a special guest speaker as you are. And most of the people in the world and in online space and offline know about you, but we would love to introduce yourself a little bit for our audience. Maybe there are people who will know much more about you.
Well, I'm the founder of BNI. BNI stands for Business Network International. It's a referral marketing platform that helps business people create referrals for life. We presently have 11,170 chapters in more than 75 countries around the world. In the last 12 months, the organization has, our members have passed over 15 million referrals to each other because we're a referral organization. We literally get together every week, either in person or online, and we give each other referrals. In the last 12 months, we've done 15 million referrals and generated for our members what we call thank you for closed business. That's the amount of business they generate. We've generated for our members 24 billion, that's billion with a B, 24 billion US dollars worth of business for our members all around the world. Now, just to put that in perspective, if you take a look at United Nations estimates of GDP, gross domestic product, there are actually 100 countries in the world with a lower GDP than what BNI generated for its members in the last 12 months, which to me is just mind-boggling that an organization of business professionals can generate together more business than many nations in the world.
And Dr. Misner, congratulations, this is such amazing information, and news, how I can say that. Fantastic. I like BNI, and I met many amazing BNI members all around the world, especially when it was a virus and we work in online space, and I would like for our listeners to share with us a little bit about your background and how did you start BNI in especially referral marketing, which is so important for building a relationship and build a business.
Well, I'd like to tell you that I had this vision of an international organization, but the truth is I was looking for referrals for my consulting practice. And I put together some people that I trusted, they trusted me. But one of the things that I did that was a little different was I only took one person per professional classification. So it limited, you wouldn't have a whole lot of competitors sitting in the room. And so I put together one group. I didn't plan on having over 11,000. But I had bad experiences with networks. I went to some networks that were very mercenary before I started BNI. And everyone was trying to sell to me. And I'd leave those meetings and I felt like I'd been slimed and I needed to go home and get a shower because everyone was selling to me. Then I went to these other groups that were very social. It was happy hour and hors d'oeuvres and nobody was doing business. And I didn't like either of those groups. And what I wanted was something that focused on business but wasn't mercenary and that was relational but not totally social. And the philosophy that I developed within BNI is this idea of giver's gain, and it would merge the idea of business and relationship with this concept of giver's gain, which is, look, I'll help you, you help me, we'll all do better as a result of it. We work together, we collaborate together, and it just took off. I expected one group. And people just kept asking me to open up more and more chapters. In the first year, we had 20 chapters. And that's the point at which I thought.
And when did you start that part of BNI?
1985, January 1985. So we're coming up on our 40th anniversary of BNI. And one of the amazing things about the organization is that we have 40 years of year-on-year growth, net growth. For right now, 39 and a half years, we're working towards our 40th year of consecutive growth. There are very few organizations in the world that can say they've had 40 years of consecutive growth.
And you're very successful as an organization, because 40 years, it's such a huge number of years, and also developed all chapters all around the world, which is fantastic. As you mentioned, 100, and can you help me with that? How many countries BNI?
So about 75 countries right now.
75. Mm-hmm. That's really, you know, and when you started at, you build chapters, and how, and experience with all those people who start working with you, like to build their business through the referral marketing.
Well, you know, we don't teach this in colleges and universities anywhere in the world. We don't teach networking, referral marketing, emotional intelligence. And so when business people get out into the real world, even those with a college degree in business, they're not taught how to network. They're certainly not taught sales. And so they don't know how to do it. And they mostly do it wrong. They're either too aggressive or they're too social, and they don't have a focus. And so one of the things we learned early on was that it was extremely important to teach people how to network. What are the processes to network, to build relationships with the idea in mind that it leads to business in a very professional way. And so that was a big part of what we had to do in the very early days, was, you know, teach people how to network effectively. That's why I've written so many books on networking, is trying to teach people how to do it right.
And can you share with us, let's say, a few tips about good networking?
Yeah.
For our listeners who are maybe not too much familiar with network marketing and referral marketing.
Yeah, and I would call it referral marketing, because multi-level marketing companies use the term network marketing, and BNI is not a multi-level marketing company. We're actually a franchise. We have franchise territories. So we're not a network marketing. We are referral. We are a referral marketing platform. So, you know, if you really want to learn how to network, you have to understand that there are two different themes to address it. One is the mindset, the other is the skill set. You know, I could spend 3 days training on skill set, but let's start with mindset, because if you don't get the mindset right, the skills you use aren't going to work. So the mindset begins with a concept that I call the VCP process. It stands for visibility, credibility, profitability. You first have to be visible in the community. So you got to go out there and get visible. People have to know who you are and what you do. And then after time, you move from visibility to credibility. And that's where people know who you are. They know what you do. They know you're good at it, because you've developed a reputation in the community as having, providing good service, good products to people. And then and only then can you get to profitability, where people know who you are, they know what you do, they know you're good at it, and they're willing to give you referrals on an ongoing basis. Now, this isn't a sales process. This is a referral process. So, you know, if I just say, hey, let me buy your product or service, that's not what I'm talking about with profitability. That may be sales profit, but it's not referral profit. So you go visibility, credibility, and now when someone is referring business to you, that's where you get to the profitability phase. So a lot of people, I'll tell you, I went to an event in London years ago, and there were like 900 people in the audience, and I saw them. It wasn't a BNI event; it was put on by another organization, and they were all. It was like one of those mercenary groups, sell. And I was the keynote speaker, and I said, "How many of you are here today?" I don't know what possessed me to do this that day, but I said, "How many of you are here today hoping to, you know, maybe just possibly sell something? Raise your hand." Christina, everybody raised their hand. 900 people. Like, yeah, I'm here to sell something. Great, fantastic, I said. Second question I asked them was, how many of you are here today hoping to, you know, maybe just possibly buy something? No one raised their hand. Not one single person. This is what I call the networking disconnect. People show up wanting to sell, but nobody's there to buy. So why go? You go to work your way through the VCP process. You want to be visible to people you don't know. You want to make that first contact. You want to continue to establish credibility with people you do know. And then you want to be able to use that shorthand with the people that you're referring and they're referring you. You want to connect with them and say, how'd that referral work out? How'd this referral work out? How else can I help you? And so you go to networking events to work your way through the VCP process. You don't use networking as a face-to-face cold calling opportunity. It's got to be to build relationships. And so that's the big technique that people get wrong. They use networking as a cold calling opportunity rather than a relationship building process.
And as you mentioned, I realized it because when you mention VCP, visibility, credibility, and
profitability.
So, and you mentioned when you wanted to B2B meetings, and you mentioned in London when you were there. So this is like in this connection, because we wanted to sell each other, but when we build that relationship, maybe it's going to be in 6 months, it's going to be in 1 year.
Yeah,
you're right. More we get
networking's a marathon, not a sprint. So you bring up a good point. It takes time, 6 months, a year to build the relationships to get referrals.
That people know you because they who wanted to refer you, that person put, for example, myself, yourself, whoever, put that your credibility to refer someone. And the point is to know that person,
Yes.
as a trust to that and trustworthy, build it. And no one can just put their credibility instead that some person once met one person and then I wouldn't like to refer that. You need to know that person.
You need to
get
know
deeper
them,
inside.
Yeah. And I always find it interesting when, I meet somebody at a networking event and they give me 2 or 3 copies of their business card and they say, hey, maybe you could refer me to someone. And I'm like, I don't even know your name. I can't refer you because when you give a referral, you give a little bit of your reputation away with it. If you give a good referral, it enhances your reputation. People come to you because they know people. But if you give a bad referral, it hurts your reputation. And so that's why getting to credibility is so incredibly important. And you get to credibility in a system and a process where that you're there to help each other. You can't just, do it willy-nilly. You got to really focus on helping each other. And that's why networking meetings are important.
And this is you're such a kind of founder of BNI because this is such a good, you're so experienced in that to coach and teach people through, and also getting membership through BNI all around the world. What we learn in BNI either.
Yeah. We now have 327,000 members worldwide.
This is such a big number, And when I met many amazing members of BNI, they're really you can see that they're just so educated and they really wanted to help in terms to build relationship and to refer you. And either in every single chapter, how I know what I know about it, that you can have only one, let's say, bookkeeper, only one, English teacher, only one copywriter. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's pretty correct. There are classifications that can be narrowed down. For example, we might have a commercial real estate agent and a residential real estate agent. We might have a leasing agent, somebody who rents property. We might have an attorney that does family law, an attorney that does corporate law. So you might have 2 or 3 professions that sound the same, but they have different specialties. And so we have people, one person per specialty in a chapter. And that's sometimes how we have chapters of 100 members, and those chapters definitely, have specialties, but those chapters are also generating just one group is generating millions of US dollars in business every year in that one chapter. And so a lot of business can be done if you get enough good business professionals together with the right attitude.
And what is curious is that we in BNI, you can learn how to introduce yourself in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Just like
Yeah.
to share
Yeah,
with
that's
members.
important. And you do it in a different context depending on where you're at. In BNI, it's about educating. So I tell people, change your presentation every week. Don't do the same presentation because it becomes repetitive. And in BNI, we meet every week. So either in person or online or a hybrid. We have chapters that meet once a month in person and then the rest of the month online, but every week. And if you say the same thing every week, then people are just going to tune you out. So what we try to teach people is say something different every week. I mean, you can give a sentence about what the basics, of your profession, but then spend the rest of your time going really deep on one aspect of what you do. It might be a case study. It might be a product that you offer. It might be a service that you offer. It might be a benefit of your product or service, but narrow it down and every week come up with something different so that over the course of a year, you've really educated. You're not trying to close a sale at a BNI meeting. You're trying to train a sales force, trying to teach people how to refer you. That's the key in the weekly presentations.
And I know when we go sometimes in an online space globally or some chapters and they say, okay, and so about referrals, and then or visitors or observers, which is so good for people to join and present that meeting. And especially in person when it's 7 a.m. mornings or 7:15 with breakfast, is that correct? And when people
most of them are a breakfast. I think about 86% of our organization meets in the morning. The next largest percentage is around lunch, and then a small percentage meets in the evening.
Yeah, but it's so interesting because you have chance to connect in person,
yeah,
to have a breakfast together and to talk and build that relationship in
yes.
terms to build
just that's the key is that timed repetition of meeting people.
And when you mention in terms to change something, to update, there are many business owners who have a lot in their plate, just in terms of services. But what do you think about to simplify it? Because when you can use it only one business model in terms that people need to, because when you mention many things, when you say that, people just sometimes could be confused. I mean.
Oh yeah, I see it all the time. Particularly new businesses, particularly new businesses, they'll take almost anything, and so they'll do 2 or 3 types of maybe somewhat related in their mind anyway, 2 or 3 different businesses, and they try and do it all. If you're a jack of all trades and a master of none, what we have found is specialize. Be the best in your community at this. And if you focus on being the best in that category, you're way more likely to get a lot more referrals. And that's counterintuitive to the average business person. But I'm telling you, I've been doing this for 40 years and I've seen it over and over and over and over again. That specialization is what gets you more referrals.
This episode...
Sometimes from your very own competitors, by the way, because I know a chapter that's got 7 attorneys, and they all do they could legally do any of the things that they all specialize in, but they don't like it. They like their specialty. So they're happy to refer the other specialty to another attorney, even though they could take on the work. They don't do it because they don't like it. So they want to do their specialty. Well, guess what? This other person, they don't want to do that person's specialty. So they're happy to refer over there. And so that's why that specialization works so well. And it can even work with professions that you might at first glance think they're competitive, but because of the specialties, they're not.
And Dr. Misner, when you mentioned that if there are 7 attorneys and they are I think they're in the same mode of attorneys, but they're different.
Yes.
And maybe they just connect to work to attract competitors, not just to be competitor, you know. They
Right.
just attract to work together, like a joint venture part.
Exactly. That's exactly right. Yeah. And again, that's counterintuitive to most business people. It's like, no, they're operating on the law of scarcity instead of the law of abundance. And I'm just, I've been doing this so long. I've seen it over and over and over again. I remember I had an audience once, and I had one person who, he was a little argumentative in his questioning. It was like, I don't buy that. And I'm like, okay, well, I said, what is it that you do? I asked him what he did. And he said he was financial planning, financial services. I said, how long have you been doing it? He said, I've been doing it for 10 years. I said, are you pretty good at it? He said, yeah, I'm really good at it. I said, well, do you ever have anybody who says to you, no, I disagree with you. That's not a good way to invest. And he says, yeah, I have that. And I said, well, look, I've been doing this for 40 years. Some people think I'm pretty good at it. And I'm telling you, this is the way you need to do it if you want to be successful. Take my advice. Don't take my advice. But I've been doing this a long time. And some people who follow my advice do really, really, really well. It's up to you. And it was interesting kind of turning the tables on him in recognizing that how frustrated he gets when people don't take his advice, and how he just wasn't taking my advice, even though I had way more experience in this than he did.
In today's episode, what I wanted to say that our listeners can learn, just it's like a masterclass, you know, because we're here to learn from you, because you're so experienced in that. But as you mentioned before, I think that all our life you are 40 years in this business, but we are still learning, you know.
Sure, and things change. I mean, when COVID hit, we had to pivot. We had at that time 9,800 groups that all met every week in person all around the world, and so we had to pivot within months, weeks, country by country, where we pivoted from in-person meetings to online meetings. And so things do change. The environment changes. You need to be prepared to pivot. Now that COVID it's not gone. Geez, one of my children just came down with it last week. So it's still around, but it's not as life-threatening as it was worldwide. Now BNI has gone to 68% in person. It's gone back to 68% in person, 16% online, and 16% as a hybrid. And I think hybrid networking is probably the future, because the technology allows us to do this. I mean, there you are in Serbia and I'm in the United States, and we're doing a live video conference. The technology has enabled us to do things that we could never do 10 years ago.
This is fantastic, because I'm in online space 14 years, because we've done like websites, created landing pages and other things. And my intention was to sit down in front of my computer and work remotely. And this is actually I like it very much, and have a chance to connect with amazing people all around the world, and speakers, and who share their amazing stories to help myself, to help others through this through this podcast. And what I wanted to ask you, Dr. Misner, is for someone who wanted to start a business. There are many people who are stuck. Maybe they quit a job, or they wanted to start their own business journey, or they have business idea but they don't know how to start, or they are stuck to start. Can you share with us maybe your advice for that? Because it's going to be for audience, just to encourage them to start their business.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's the obvious answer tends to be, follow your passion, do something that you're really passionate about. And that is an accurate recommendation. It's a valid recommendation, but I would add something to it. Also, what are you good at? If you're passionate about singing, but you can't carry a note, singing might not be the direction for you to go, right? So, what are you good at, and what are you passionate about? And where those intersect is the kind of business that you want to pursue. And you're right. Sometimes people find themselves being laid off, or things happen in their life. They move. They have to, take on new work. Find something that you're both passionate about and good at, and pursue it. And one of my best recommendations for particularly a new business is that if you want to be successful in that business, do 6 things 1,000 times, not 1,000 things 6 times. And what I've seen way too much is that businesses will do 1,000 things 6 times. They're constantly chasing bright, shiny objects. Oh, look at that. Let's try this. Oh, look at that. Let's try this. And they keep bouncing around. And by the way, it doesn't have to be 6. It could be 5. It could be 7. But you do a handful of things, and you do it over and over and over again. And what things? Well, you go to podcasts like this. You find people who are giving advice that resonates with you, that has value for you. They become your virtual mentors. They tell you the things that you need to do. Like today, I said, look, the VCP, you got to understand VCP. Don't just go there to close a deal, go through the VCP process. So that's a nugget that you can take, and now do that 1,000 times. Don't start chasing other things. You do that over and over and over consistently. So find mentors, both in person and online, virtual mentors. Get ideas. Develop, key success factors for your business, KSFs, also known as KSIs, key success indicators. The things that really pull the levers for the success of your business, and then do those 1,000 times. And entrepreneurs sometimes get bored doing that. Well, you might get bored, but if you want to be successful, it's about doing 6 things 1,000 times.
Yes, and but I think that I resonate with you and agree. When that when people want it, they need to start. If they don't try, how they will know how it's going to be? Sometimes, and as you mentioned, engage coach, work with mentor, try to help someone. Through this podcast, I got many answers from my guest speakers. Podcasting and hosting amazing entrepreneurs and experts and all around the world. So this is fantastic through that interactive work.
Yeah, listen, I agree with you completely about you got to get out there and try. I'm trying to look. There's a friend of mine. He passed away just a few years ago, Dr. Mark Golston. And he has this great saying. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. Here's his quote. Mark Golston. We have a lot less control over winning or losing at something than we do over trying or quitting at something. Always try. You can eventually win. If you always quit, you can never win. I think that's just such a fantastic quote. And if you want, I'll send you the link to the quote.
Yeah, I can share. I can share it here also for our audience. And
it's on my blog, ivanmisner.com. But I'll send it to you, and you're welcome to share it. Mark was an amazing man. He was an ex-FBI hostage negotiator who later became an executive business coach, a psychiatrist. Amazing person.
This is through his expertise and what he and Dr. Misner, maybe before we ramp up our call today, you have such a fantastic career, and I will have many questions, but time is short. And I wanted to ask you just to tell us the title of your books, which you wanted to recommend.
Well, if you're interested in a book on networking, the book I'd recommend is a book called Networking Like a Pro, the 2nd edition. Networking Like a Pro. It's available on Amazon in most countries around the world. I did a self-help book a couple of years ago that I'm really, really proud of. It's called Who's in Your Room? Who's in Your Room? That's also available on Amazon in most countries. And Who's in Your Room is about the people you surround yourself with, and the people that you allow into your life. And what do you do if you're let the wrong people in, and what do you do with people like family that you have no choice over? I think those two books are incredibly powerful books. The latest book I wrote is called The Third Paradigm, and it's really about co-creation, extreme collaboration, and how when people work together, magic happens. And that too is available on Amazon. It's a co-creation. It's called The Third Paradigm.
Dr. Meisen, thank you so much for sharing that. And can you share with us your website and when people, for our listeners, so that I will put all links below this episode.
Thank you. BNI.com is the primary BNI website, but we have BNI websites in various countries all over the world, but you can get to them by BNI.com. My blog, which has all free content up there, is IvanMisner.com, MISNER, IvanMisner.com. And thanks for letting me share those. Can I give you one last closing comment? Can I give you one last closing comment?
Yes, of course. Here you are.
If you really want to be successful at networking, understand that networking is more about farming than it is about hunting. That it's about cultivating relationships with people. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a way to build a solid foundation for a long-term successful business. And if you keep that in mind, you'll do great at networking.
Dr. Misner, I'm so excited having you today as special guest speaker. Thank you so much for joining. And, I'm so excited, really, and I appreciate it so much. And I think that this episode is going to be on Spotify, Amazon, Apple, also on YouTube channel or my Facebook group video, and it's going to be audio. So, and I would love to have you again on my podcast. And before I ramp up, I wanted to say that this podcast is top 20 or best 20 on web in category of online business by FeedSpot. And I got it emailed from founder of that.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much. And I'm super happy with that. And because of that, I really need much more obligation to invite such amazing guest speakers as you are and share it on this podcast for small business owners. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thank you. Great talking to you, Christina.
Great talk. Bye for now.